the headline of this, which I laughed about, this came out of Queerty. And but it's been reported. I've seen it other places. So it says terminally ill gay biker hires a man to out him at his own funeral.
I did read this. I didn't read the whole thing though.
So there's a private investigator in Australia. Apparently he does this for a living. So the client was a biker.
As in
motorcycle rider. And he was fearful to reveal his sexuality to his family and friends while he was alive. So he hired this guy to go to the funeral. So his whole sole purpose there was not for the living, but for the dead, because he was paid to go into the funeral and let everybody know that he was gay and his lover was amongst them, but they weren't going to say who the lover was at the funeral. And that there were also other people there that he didn't particularly care for and didn't want them there, and they were asked to leave. This is quite a job.
So the guy that's hired to do this had a pre-created list from the deceased.
He sits with the deceased. This is his job. He sits with the deceased and goes through.
I don't want these 7 people.
He said, I go through exactly what people want. He goes, we either videotape it or I write it down, and then my job is to go deliver the message as a non-partisan person. So.
From the dead.
How much do you think it would cost to hire this guy?
Oh, I'm guessing this is like...
Includes travel.
Includes travel?
Yeah.
Guys, what do you think to hire someone to come and
come to your funeral and let everyone know the way it is?
$6,900.
69. $500.
$500. Woo.
I'm going to go with 6,500, but
you must have read then. That's what it is, 6,500.
Oh, but Garrett, see, Garrett could have done like 68.75. You know, that could have been in prices.
You know what Garrett's doing.
65. Okay. So, yeah. You know.
So the guy's name is Bill Edgar. He says he's done a number of these over the years. He's done 17 so far in the last year. He said one client went a little further knowing they were going to die. He was instructed to stand up at those that were gathered there. And he did have to ask people to leave. And then he was to tell his former best friend who was going to deliver the eulogy that he knew he tried to seduce his wife. So he calls out his friend who's just about to give the eulogy. By the way, I know you were trying to screw my wife all these years. He also had another crash, another one where he went and crashed the wedding. He said it included a woman in her 70s who wanted to inform her husband that she'd been having an affair for quite some time and was going to out the guy there at the funeral that she was having the affair with. Can you imagine?
So let's pause on that one for a minute. You
don't want to see Edgar showing up at the funeral.
No, you do not. Edgar is not a welcome guest. So the woman who decides that she's going to alert her husband,
who's alive, that she's
basically had an affair for maybe 10, who knows, a number of years. What's the point of that?
Well, they say that. They say, why don't you just do these things while you're alive? And they said for a lot of people, this is just, he said he's found, because that was the question, he says he's found that when people know they're going to die, they turn into monsters. He said, if you know you've got a terminal illness or you're going to die, because people seem to get very, very, very much full of revenge.
So in the case of the woman who decides to alert her husband to the affair, that there must be some reason why she wanted to do that. She was an unhappy marriage. I mean,
yeah.
Right?
Or you let her husband, like she was unhappy in her marriage and just wanted to, blow the whole thing up. So for this biker that wanted to be outed, he also then. He didn't want his lover to be identified, but he did want his motorcycle then to be pushed into on top of the coffin when they filled the dirt in. So he had very specific things they were supposed to do. He said when he started to interrupt the funeral, he said, I was told to sit down and F off. He said a number of people then said, no, we want to hear it. So a lot of people did want to hear what's going on.
Wow.
He said there were a couple of other ones. Let's see. He said, to your point of what happens when people know, he said people's thoughts and feelings change before they die. He said they have a whole different attitude. He said it's almost as if the person about to die flicks a switch and they turn into monsters. He says it's really quite terrible. He said I do it as a respect for not as respect to the living, but out of respect for the dead. He said I'm a nobody. I act in the interest of the person in the coffin. He was paid to do 17 funerals. He also now has expanded his business. He does home sweeps. So if you know you're going to die, he'll go in and take anything embarrassing out of the home, or
as long as he knows where to go, right?
Yeah, he's told where to go get things and throw them away so the family doesn't find them. But I thought, what a business.
I'm still fixated by that comment of his that you've said a couple times now, that when people know they're going to die, like a terminal illness or something, they turn into monsters.
Yeah, he says, I sit with the people, we write it all down together, we videotape it, I stand up and tell the person who's about to die what exactly I'm going to say. And he goes, it seems to be, he goes, I have no problem with it because I'm separate from the loved ones, the mourners, the family, and the friends. I'm a nobody.
But have you had the, so you and I have both known a couple of people who've passed, who've had terminal illnesses, or they've known the end date for a while that they were given, but I don't recall them turning into monsters or wanting,
either.
or wanting to reveal things that, you know.
He does say some things are nice. He had one woman that passed, and she had hired him to send a letter every month to the husband telling him how much she loved him and will not forget him. I thought that was a little creepy. He also says he's asked to do things to commemorate anniversaries, Valentine's Day. He had to deliver a round-the-world ticket to to somebody who passed, and they bought a round-the-world trip ticket to a loved one. He says sometimes things are nice. He will not break the law. He said one guy wanted him to, when he died, to also put his dog to sleep so they could be buried together. He said he wouldn't do that. Another one, he said if somebody commits a serious crime and they want to confess, he says, I'll tell the police. He goes, I won't let them do that, and I won't assist anybody in taking their lives. But I thought, he's probably busy.
This is a service I will not be using.
Did you do the job?
Could I do the job? I guess doing the job is one thing, right? I don't know. I guess I'm going to say I could do the job until such point as I might get kind of like burned out by hearing some of this stuff or people's motivations, right?
I think it's worth a shot. Something to do. I don't know. I think it would be depressing. Or I don't know. I guess you because he says you have to interrupt the funeral. By the way, I've got something to say. Who are you? Who's this? And then you spew it out.
Oh, of course. That makes sense because the family, all the planning happens, right? And it's timed out. You talk to the priest or whoever's officiating the funeral rites, depending on the religion, but you would have to interrupt because it's not like a wedding.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any
No, he says he interrupts.
objections?
He interrupts the service because I have something to say. So, yeah.
It says less about the living and more about the dead, in my opinion. The desire to actually stick you from the grave is now the biker coming out as gay at his own funeral.
Yeah.
This is. I thought when you started reading this, and I'm thinking of the headline. Why didn't he do it when he was alive?
He said he was fearful about people would think of him. He was of a different generation, is what the excuse was. And even this guy, Edgar, said he was surprised that the guy...
Even it's the 2020s,
yeah,
right?
He said, I'm surprised the guy wanted me to do it. He said that's what he wanted. I guess people write things in wills. Right?
Oh, yeah.
So it's the same sort of thing.
I just think that score settling when someone's dead is so pointless. I mean, they can't even respond. And you throw this crap into the room, right? It's like a stink bomb.
Yeah.
Remember stink bombs when we were kids? And boom. And what are you left with? You're left with an unaltered, and now a definitely different picture of the person that's passed
Yes.
on.
Imagine doing this, at weddings. You've seen those videos at weddings where people get up and they say something.
Well, I actually laugh at some of those. We did a caught our eye where this woman went to her own wedding, and as they were saying the vows, she began reading a chain of text messages from a stranger who basically told her that her husband-to-be
Right.
was sleeping with multiple people, including her bridesmaid or something. And everybody
do you do at that
screams
point?
And she ended up having the party. They did have a party, but it was the I'm not getting married party. But wow, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how people handle that.